West Virginia fans have been buzzing for the last 24 hours over recruiting wins in the West Virginia space. Chris Henry Jr. is the topic, but what would it actually take? What would it take on paper for West Virginia to win this huge recruiting battle? We're talking about that now.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. Welcome back into Locked On West Virginia, where we're talking about the Mountaineers, guys, on the football side of things today. Thank you so much for joining in as we dive into another fun one, talking a little bit of football. So obviously, if you've been living under a rock, maybe you haven't seen, West Virginia won a couple recruiting battles over the last couple of days, and a lot of speculation going around about who that could be. So, obviously Chris Henry is one of the names that a lot of people have speculated on, and there was a lot of reasons for that. Number one, a lot of people think that he's removed his Ohio State stuff from his bio. There's obviously the very obvious ties into West Virginia. There is the potential flippage because of Pat McAfee, Pac-Man Jones, etc. The fact that Ohio State fans are freaking out on social media about it. So that means their message boards and the people and their insiders haven't been told that they have won this battle or not, and multiple other things. So I do think that there is some smoke to it. As I have to fix my light midstream here. I forgot to plug it in. But yeah, so I do think there is something to it. It just depends on to what level and how much you believe that. And I understand that there are varying degrees to it. So let's just go ahead and assume that West Virginia has a chance. So let's say that there are their hats in the ring with Oregon and Ohio State, and the best man wins, right? I've compiled a list of things. I've thought about this a lot. What would it take for West Virginia to win this battle? It's an interesting question, I think. It would take a massive package deal, right? Worth probably $2 to $3 million over his first couple of years, which would, I want to say it would outpace what other people can offer, but maybe it would outpace what other people would want to offer for sure, which would have West Virginia focusing on, NIL, Pat McAfee, etc. That would be the vibe, in my opinion. It would have to be a big package. And then that raises another question, and I've had people answer this multiple different ways. Would he be worth it? Do you think, would you be mad if you found out West Virginia spent $2 or $3 million on a one player like that? And when we could probably get 6 or 7 other guys that could probably help us for the same amount. It's an interesting question, right? Because Chris could turn into one of those mismatches like Tavon Austin was for us, or he could be injured like he's been. He's been injury prone to an extent, right? So those are questions that I think are interesting to talk about. He would need guaranteed early playing time, right? A clear path to starting as a true freshman. He's probably got that at Ohio State, probably would have it at Oregon or BYU or anywhere else he wants to go. And he'd have to have assurances from the coaching staff that he'd be the featured wide receiver too, I would imagine, in the offense right away, especially if West Virginia's receiver room continues to be like it is, which is thinner. I think he would want to honor his father's jersey, right? I think, you would either probably want to – these are just hypotheticals, guys, so don't get too – I'm just trying to come up with things. But he probably would want to wear his dad's jersey, and then that be the last one to be worn, right? The last time you want to wear number 3. So that would be something I would consider, or 15, whichever one. He would need some high-profile endorsements like Pat McAfee, level involvement, public hype videos, whatever you want to see, maybe podcast features. Hell, maybe Pat himself will broker the NIL deal through his media empire, because that's what it is. No other team in the country can offer that, and that's the one thing that I think you can look at and say, maybe. the coaching staff, stability and fit. Obviously, you have to have a plan in place with Rich Rod, and you have to have financial plan in place. Like beyond, basically, you're gonna have to show this kid, like, hey, look, man, yeah, we got enough to bring you in, but we ain't got enough to bring anybody else in. So what would be the point, right? Why would he want to come play for a loser? Like if I were him and I had the same similar offers, I would say, look, I'm all down for coming home to West Virginia and stepping back into my dad's shoes. But I need to know there's going to be players around me. I need to know you're going to bring in a guy that can really sling that thing. And maybe he doesn't like Scotty Fox Jr. I don't know. Like with a guy like this, he comes in with a lot of leverage. So you're going to have to kind of give up some things, right? And I don't know if Rich Rod would do that. I think it's like, man, you're getting the money. We'll figure the rest out. I don't know. I'm just saying. Maybe he's really easy to deal with, but with Pac-Man and everybody, maybe they would be able to vouch enough. I think West Virginia needs to have some on-field success. Obviously, this is the final recruiting cycle, so it'll be interesting, right? I think, obviously, we're talking about keeping him if he were to come at this point, but you would have to probably win some games and be successful. Otherwise, he's bouncing most likely. Probably he would want intensive involvement from alumni, and obviously his former teammates, as far as his dad's former teammates. Maybe some family funded visits to Morgantown to relive his dad's glory days and build some personal bonds. Maybe he would want to have a say in some recruits as well, which I'm sure that would probably be something that West Virginia would be happy to do because he would bring a lot of talent with him. And the other part is you're going to need some instability in Columbus. You're going to need some instability in Oregon potentially as well. Like I don't know that West Virginia can flip him in a perfect world is the thing. And I don't know that it's possible. Yesterday, it felt more possible than it does today. I think I got caught up in the hype just like a lot of you did. And, I'm like I say all the time, I'm a fan too. I come on here. I love West Virginia as much as you guys do. Don't forget that about me. And I try to be as neutral as I can where it needs to be. But when I saw the things I saw yesterday, man, I mean, I got excited like a lot of y'all. And I think, so kind of give me some grace too sometimes, It's hard whenever you have so many people that want you to fail. And I mean that, like there are people that watch this show that want me to succeed, but there are people that watch this show that want me to fail too. We're running into it every single day. I didn't think this was interesting. Oops, wrong one. I thought I had a screenshot of it. Yeah, there it is. Okay. There's a screenshot I took earlier of Chris Henry on recruit.access over on Instagram. And this is you don't see below Chris Henry there, but it says West Virginia's gained significant momentum. And looking through the comments, Wilnerson Telemac, West Virginia defensive lineman, replied to Block Hero, miracles happen. So that stirred a little something up today as well, right? So I think there's just a lot of people that are, kind of feeding into this a little bit. We all want it to happen. I think that's safe to say. We all wish it would, and it just needs to be reasonable. That I've heard a couple different angles on it though. Like if West Virginia spends $3 million on this player, okay, which is like an elite quarterback, you could get a 5-star for that too, most likely, or a high-end 4-star. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have a receiver like this that's bears the Chris Henry name, that would probably bring as much hype as any other player you could get, right? So there are things there that I get, like even if he's not an impact player right away, the hype of bringing him in would bring in other good players, kind of like Kevin Brown. I don't know. I do see that. I see that. Somebody told me this yesterday, and I thought, well, I guess, yeah, I could see how that could be possible, but I don't know. Part of me still doubts whether it's worth $3 million or whatever, unless somebody just comes in and offers it and says, look, I'll throw it out here for Chris Henry, but that's the only way I'm giving it up. If somebody does that, then sure, but I mean, if I could have the $3 million to spend on any other players, and then it's just this one player, guys, unless you just got extra to spend, I'm on the kind of I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Am I crazy? How do you all feel about this? Do you think West Virginia should spend this much money on one player being in the position they're in? So I don't know. So I just thought it would be something to talk about. I did want to give a percentage chance on this. Obviously everybody talked about the On3 stuff and how that dropped down to 30%. Obviously we know that fans vote that site. And so, I wouldn't put a whole bunch of credence into it, but I will say I put West Virginia's chances at about 10% personally. There are a lot of people throwing their hats in the ring here last minute. I would imagine the money for this is going to go up and up and up. And unless somebody's going to come in and just say, listen, I'll pay for it. And I'll match whatever, to keep it even. I don't know that anybody can. I don't know that anybody can really say much better than 10%. So it's just my personal opinion on it. Hope I'm wrong. Most likely not. Let's go to the break, though. On the other side, Phil still picked West Virginia today, believe it or not, in a weird way. We'll talk about it next. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks, y'all. Got to love them. The holidays always feel a little easier when you already have the perfect gift. And Omaha Steaks makes it too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to your door. And this week is the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals are huge. Have you ever given Omaha Steaks as a gift or know someone who would love it? Because you should. The excitement when the box arrives and the smiles are even bigger when it hits the grill. You want to do this, guys. If you haven't done it, save big on unforgettable gifts at Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, use the promo code college at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com. Promo code college, terms apply. See site for details. And we're back in segment 2. I have a Gator Dew today. Let me get a sippy. All right, so Inside the Gun today did their preview pod for West Virginia, Texas Tech, and obviously they went through the picks and everything. And Phil Steele actually picked West Virginia, and he's picked against West Virginia a lot lately. I see the comment from you, Chaz. I will get a hold of my BYU people. Yes, I have more BYU contacts than I do West Virginia contacts. If you want me to be honest, like I became like Mr. Popular around there. Yeah, I'll definitely hit those people up. But hold on, Drum Wolf, before you quit yelling at me now. Bill still picked West Virginia against the spread. I teased you guys a little bit. But, yeah, he picked West Virginia and the points. He didn't pick them to win. I mean, I listen, I almost did an episode on it. Phil still picks West Virginia. Then I thought, well, I mean, I know I'm like sometimes with the headlines, I get a little hate for it. But, guys, if you ever created content, you have to be able to compete with everybody else. It's not like I'm lying to you. And it's all for fun. Like, I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening as soon as the episode begins. Sometimes it's just for fun. But with the Phil Steele thing, He did pick West Virginia technically, right, with the spread. So I thought, that's notable. At least he thinks it's going to be Texas Tech's average margin of victory this year is 22 points a game. So they've only lost one game. So it's either they win by 22 a game or they've lost so far. There's really not much in between. Phil still thinks West Virginia is going to cover the spread. So we'll see. And he thinks that a lot of it has to do with the play calling that Joey McGuire and company are going to have. I think they're going to be a little more conservative. They just want to get this win. They don't need style points. They just need the win. If they get the win, you're golden. You basically you're in the playoff, even with a Big 12 championship loss. So I get that. Makes sense. And I came up with 10 reasons or 10 things that West Virginia is going to need to have happen. Well, and you know what? I'm bad for looking in the comment section, and I'll read this one out loud. Drumwell said, Phil always picks against West Virginia. But can we take our bias out of it for a minute? Do you blame him? I mean, it's not like we've been good. We've been average under Neal. But, I mean, certainly this year we deserve to be picked against. To be honest, so. But, yeah, I will obviously look more further into the Chris Henry thing. For those of you still asking, I will look further into it. If he's at BYU, I will find out. And then we'll talk about that if that happens. But certainly, there's a lot of this Texas Tech game I still think we need to look into. And there are some things, right? So looking at it now, it looks like it's supposed to be 37 degrees tomorrow, cloudy, not any snow until the next day. Maybe we get lucky and it hits a day early. You never know. But I think that's one of my factors for the game. West Virginia is going to need some weather, right? I think and maybe it helps Texas Tech. I don't know. Here's my question to you guys. In this new NIL era, it used to be if you could get a West Coast team to travel out east in cold weather, it was almost always bad. I remember the LA Chargers even coming out to Pittsburgh that year for the playoffs from Phillip Rivers and them, and Troy Polamalu and them kicked their butt. It's tough on those teams because their bodies aren't adjusted to the cold. These days they have cold plunges and everything else to kind of get used to it. But not that they didn't have it back then, but they weren't utilized as often. My question to y'all is in this day and age where everybody's a mercenary, like we got a bunch of dudes from Florida, we got dudes from Alabama, we got dudes from California on this roster, and they've mostly only been here a year. Have these guys been in West Virginia long enough to even experience a winter? And are their body clocks even to the point to where we're so protected against the cold and they're not? Like, it's not like this is the West Virginia team that's a bunch of veterans that have been around for 2 or 3 years and experienced the harsh West Virginia weather. So the weather part of this is kind of makes me giggle a little bit because people don't consider that. So, yeah, very interesting. All right, so to beat Texas Tech, obviously you're going to need some windy weather. I think that'll help because they are a shot team. They love to take shots down the field. Just saying. We're going to have to force multiple turnovers. Obviously, Texas Tech has protected the ball well this season. But when they haven't, it's been on the road. Baron Morton has been turnover worthy on the road. 17 touchdowns, 14 interceptions on the road in his career. West Virginia's running game needs to run for over 200 yards, which is almost impossible. But we're going to see if it can happen, right? It's possible with Rich Rod. You never know. You could just, like against Houston, you could just be doing it right one day. And I think we would need our ground attack to produce big chunk plays against Texas Tech's defense, which leads FBS. I mean, it's going to be really hard. Texas Tech is going to have to commit uncharacteristic penalties and basically beat themselves, which, they're a disciplined unit, man. They've got 6 starters graded 80+ in PFF. So we would need to rack up at least 8 flags against them, including drive extending ones, in my opinion, like holds, pass interference calls, to get our offense rolling a little more. Standout special teams from West Virginia is going to have to be helping here. Block punt, a long return, field goal block. Like, it's going to take things that happen during upsets. Our quarterback, Scotty Fox, is going to have to play the game of his life like he did against TCU in some ways, where he was just on. He was just on. Our offense didn't really score a lot, but he played well. So I do think we need him to hit somewhere in the 250-yard range, 70% completion percentage, no picks. It's going to take a miracle from him. But, man, what a send-off it would be, guys, through the offseason. And we're going to need their defense to have an off day. We're going to have Rich Rod. He's had 2 weeks to prepare for them. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for us. So both teams are going to be showing things that neither team has seen. So, their front's only allowed over 325 yards once this year. So their front would need to basically miss tackles or gap assignments or both. Maybe they come out rusty, and it's going to let West Virginia average 5 yards a carry or so and sustain some drives, which sounds almost impossible, but you never know. And then Curtis Jones Jr. could be a big one. I just want to start him and play him all game long, to be honest, if you're asking me. The home crowd is going to put pressure on them in this game, but is it going to be enough? In a high-stakes game with all that other factoring in, Texas Tech could, they win, they clinch, right? Well, could their butt cheeks be clinched instead is what I have written down here. I forgot I wrote that. I'm laughing at my own jokes. But the crowd noise in Lubbock might lead to false starts, could lead to communication issues, errors, and give West Virginia a chance to create chaos as underdogs aiming to spoil the party. We've seen it before in life. We have to minimize our own turnovers, as I already said. We've struggled all year against strong defenses. We struggled against Utah. We struggled against BYU. We struggled against Arizona State to an extent. So, why would we be better in this one? But who knows? You just never know. And then we're going to probably need late game heroics, even with all that, and some good clock management from Rich Rod. So that would mean clutch plays from Rodney Gallagher, from Preston Fox, from Cam Vaughn, obviously, or Grayson Barnes, or somebody like that. Like a fourth quarter touchdown drive or defensive interception from Fred Perry or Reed Carrico or somebody like that, which is going to overcome a bunch of other things that Texas Tech is throwing at us. Because otherwise, this is a 40-13 type blowout, Texas Tech, right? I don't think it's crazy to say that. But at the end of the day, this is West, it's like the Jim Carrey meme. So you're saying we got a chance. I think we got a chance, but we're going to have to stay in it early, man. Early. So those are my keys to it. Hopefully West Virginia can pull any of those off. Any number of those would definitely help. Here's what and if you want to talk moral victories, and I know that's not popular, let's go to break and we'll talk about some moral victories. What can we kind of be happy with in a loss? And I don't like to talk like that. And I know Rich Rod wouldn't, but we kind of need to. It's the last game of the year. We need to start focusing towards the off season here on this show right after the break. This episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. And with FanDuel, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets to a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your game is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins, but you can't win if you don't play. So head to FanDuel.com to play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. All right, guys, we are back. Let's take a look at the offseason. Obviously, West Virginia is not likely to win this game, but there are some things we can look for in this game to give us some hope for next year, right? Obviously, this is the best front we played, I think, since we turned the corner, because we turned the corner against TCU, really, and then we moved on to Houston and even Arizona State. Like, we've been able to at least move the ball finally. Again, there was that 5-game stretch against Utah, BYU, Kansas, etc. I think a lot of it had to do with our O-line hadn't gelled yet. And, we were shuffling quarterbacks in every single week for the first 6-7 games or whatever it was. And it just, things weren't meshing. And finally, when they did, we were able to move it a little bit. So I want to see what this team looks like against a really good front, because if they can move the ball at all in this Texas Tech team, I think you'll have a lot to look forward to next year with another offseason, with at least 3 of these offensive linemen coming back, I would imagine, and Scotty Fox potentially. And this is Scotty Fox, he's going into this as his audition for next year, because otherwise we're hearing from multiple people that West Virginia is going to take a transfer. It's just going to happen. To what level is a good question. Does Rich Rod believe that Scotty Fox is truly the future or just a pretty good player? Because they're different, right? There's like, okay, I can win with him, but like then there's like, God, man, he can erase. Like he said with Pat White when he was talking about him. God, Pat White's the kind of player I can call the wrong play. We don't block something right, and he erases that because he's so damn good. If we're talking about getting Chris Henry, I love it, but I'm sorry, screw that. Let's go out there and get some offensive linemen that do that for us and a quarterback. Like let's go spend $5 million on an offensive line and a quarterback. You get 3 guys, 3 offensive linemen, right? Let's say you're paying 1.5 for really good offensive linemen this year. So, you're paying right around $5 million for your O line. If you need 3 guys, and then you throw in a couple million on your quarterback, I guess. I don't really know, man. Without knowing the full numbers, it's hard to make guesses. But I mean, if you're able to spend $3 million on Chris Henry, part of me wants to say, go get 3 offensive linemen for $3 million or something. I don't know what the going prices are. I know what some of the guys West Virginia brought in last year got paid. They're in the mid 6 figures, some of them. So those guys were probably looked at as, probably borderline starters at places like West Virginia, and then probably backups at the better places, I would imagine. But that's all we could go after last year because Rich Rod got in so late, December. Like, remember, Rich Rod wasn't even hired this time last year. So he was still like about a month away from now. He had another month to go after the season ended before he got hired. So I say all that to say, if West Virginia can have success in this game with Scotty Fox, and you can see it, then there's no reason you can't do it against anybody else, right? And I would just love to see how that looks like, because I think there are people, myself included, that wonder, here's my big problem with Scotty Fox, if you want me to be honest. I think he's got a potential to be one of the best passing quarterbacks in the conference. I really do. I think he's got enough arm talent to be an elite player. I just don't know as a runner. He's average at best as a runner. I mean, he had the big run against Robert Morris, but that was against Robert Morris. Against other teams, he can run the offense for sure. But is he elite as a runner? Is he an elite runner? No, he's not. And I just partially wonder, in this offense, for it to reach its full potential, don't you have to have an elite runner, even over an elite passer? Or do you have to just rejumble it and now you're more of a passing offense that runs the ball with the running backs and occasionally the quarterback? Because Scotty Fox is not capable of carrying that thing 20 times a game like Pat White was. I can tell you that. Pat White's a different breed, though, and most are, So I think Khalil Wilkins would obviously be a great runner in this offense, even though he's not blazing fast. He's more elusive. I'm just really curious about how some of you guys feel about this, because if West Virginia can just hang on and play well in this game, it could give us some vision as to what next year's team can be like. And if you win this game, the expectations are going to be through the roof. Even though you only won 5 games, if you pull this upset off, and that means you beat Houston and Texas Tech down the stretch, oh God, 2 ranked teams in the last 5 games. Yeah, I mean, it would be a wild off season at that, and what momentum you could have. It's such an important game for a game that doesn't matter on the schedule necessarily towards the end of, what our overall record's going to be. Who cares now? Although we do have a small chance of getting in a bowl game. I don't know if you know that, due to the APR ranking or whatever it is, but and I don't know how they work that out. But there are some 6-win teams that will say, no, I don't want to. I don't want to be in a bowl game, or they're going to have a fired coach. They're not going to play in their bowl game. Like, that happens. And so sometimes they have to go to 5-win teams to replace them. I mean, if you're West Virginia, you absolutely want to be that, so that would be really exciting if that could happen. I mean, how cool would that be? But there are a bunch of other 5-win teams, I think, ahead of West Virginia. But if you win this game, I don't know. All right, guys, let's jump out of here. I appreciate you all so much for being here. At the end of the day, it's going to be a fun game tomorrow. I can't wait. Let's see what happens. If West Virginia plays well and Scotty Fox plays well, maybe he is the future. I'm not saying he's not either, guys, by the way, when I'm saying all this. I'm just saying we need to see a little more, and I would love to see him more as a runner, but it's not going to happen this year, I don't think. Maybe he can get better there. I don't know. But my main question for you down below is this. Answer this question for me down below after the video. Would you rather West Virginia spend $3 million or $4 million on a Chris Henry Jr., or would you rather them spend it on the O-line and the quarterback, or just a quarterback to get the best one that you can find, like the kid from Cal, right? Or somebody like that can really run it and throw it. Let me know down below. We'll talk about it later. I got some errands to run, but we will do another video here in a little bit, most likely, and I'll see you then. All right, guys, talk to you in a little bit, and don't forget to cue those country roads. We're out.